What does workers' compensation insurance cover? Workers' compensation, which is also called workmen's compensation or workers' comp for short, protects a business from claims which arise from employees who are injured in on-the-job accidents or become ill from work-related causes. There are four major headings or categories of what workers' comp covers, and we'll break that down here. The first, of course, are medical expenses. Workers' comp will pay for the medical-related bills for work-related injuries and illnesses. This includes emergency transportation to a hospital or medical facility, emergency room visits, surgical procedures, hospital stays, doctor's costs, prescriptions, and many other medical expenses. Workers' comp pays or reimburses per a schedule set by the state in where the injured worker is treated. Rehabilitation and ongoing care needed to restore an injured worker's health is also covered. The second category are lost wages. We talk more about what we call lost time in other videos, which you can see here. But when a worker is injured and is unable to return to work for a period of time, their wages are covered. Workers' comp does not pay the full amount of wages, but instead pays about 2/3 of the lost wages depending on your state. Now you may be saying, why just 2/3? That's because workers' comp payments are tax-free, and the system isn't designed to make an injured worker better off than they were prior to an accident or illness. It would be sort of a moral hazard, and it wouldn't encourage workers to get back to work if they were paid more for recovering than just working. The third element are fatal injuries and death benefits. If a worker suffers a fatal work-related injury, workers' comp will also pay a small death benefit to cover funeral expenses and provide survivor benefits. This amount changes from state to state, so check your state. The fourth element are lawsuits arising from worker injuries. Part 2 of the workers' comp policy doesn't get discussed very often. It's known as Employers Liability Insurance, and its function is to provide liability protection from lawsuits which can arise from a worker injury due to an employer's negligence. Claims of negligence are in addition to Part 1 benefits of a policy, meaning the injured worker still gets their medical bills and lost wages covered, but when negligence is involved and the worker or their beneficiaries feel that the employer should be sued, this section of the policy is what covers the employer. Now you may be asking, why doesn't the employer's general liability policy cover this? And that's because the GL, or general liability policy, strictly excludes claims arising from worker injuries. In the past, we didn't see a lot of claims filed under Part 2 of the workers' comp policy, but in recent years, this is occurring more frequently, especially in New York, where third-party action over lawsuits are somewhat common. Action over lawsuits happen when an injured worker elects to sue a general contractor or a commercial property owner where injury occurs for their grave injuries. Because the injured worker's employer, usually a subcontractor, has agreed to indemnify the GC and the owner of the project and many others for any and all claims which occur, those third parties turn around and hand the lawsuit back to the injured worker's employer. Other employee liability lawsuits can involve loss of consortium, consequential bodily injury, and dual capacity lawsuits. Final point regarding employers' liability: if you have employees located in what we call the monopolistic states of North Carolina, Ohio, Washington, or Wyoming, where the workers' comp system is run by the state and not by commercial insurers, Part 2 coverage is not included in those states, so you'll need to purchase something called stopgap coverage. Have other questions regarding workers' compensation or employers' liability? Why not contact me so we can start a conversation? I love helping business owners solving their problems and answering questions, and I work across the U.S. Give me a call. Thanks.